Okay. Good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful day today. The sun is out finally. So I'm going to introduce Jeff Grama, MA, audiologist, clinical director. He completed his undergraduate training at UCLA in 1972 and received his Master of Arts degree in audiology from San Diego State University in 1975. He previously worked for a world-renowned speech and hearing center and a major hearing aid manufacturer. In 1983, Mr. Grama purchased hearing aid services of Hollywood, of which I went to him for 10 years. Wonderful audiologist. He has over 35 years of experience in the fields of audiology and hearing aid dispensing. Welcome, Jeff.
Well, thank you very much. I want to thank you all for inviting me. I've spoken to your group on a couple of occasions before, and several of your members are my clients, and I really appreciate your faith in me. I have been doing this a long time. Now in my 48th year, I believe, as an audiologist. So I've been around the block, and I've watched hearing aids change, and the changes have just been absolutely beyond anything I ever could have imagined. The current technology is just fascinating, and it continues to evolve at a very, very rapid pace. Currently, there are a couple of manufacturers that are definitely the ones who you should look into if you're considering getting new product. I think the most outstanding products on the market today are the ones made by Oticon. Oticon has been around for a very, very long time, and they have full-time artificial intelligence in their new lines of hearing aids. And basically, what that means is that they took 12 million environmental sounds and all the speech sounds of all languages and put it onto the microchip. So when a sound comes in to the microphones, the hearing aid immediately recognizes the sound as being that of speech or noise. And it does a very effective job in separating the speech from the noise. It still allows you to hear all the sound around you, so the noise does not shut off, but it brings the speech out. So you have a full envelope of sound and a full awareness of everything around you. And they also have a thing called a spatial analyzer, which locks in on voices from multiple directions all at once. Only one other manufacturer has a spatial analyzer, and it's very new in its product line, and that would be the GN Resound people. They introduced theirs pretty recently. I think it's been about 4 or 5 months now. It's in their Omnia product, and it works in a very similar fashion to the Oticon. But they don't have a full-time artificial intelligence in their product line at this time. None of the major manufacturers, in fact, have full-time artificial intelligence. A lot of them are still relying on older technology for separating speech from background noise. This would include companies like Signia and Widex and Phonak. Basically, they rely on what's called beam forming, and that is just changing the directionality characteristics in the microphones. That was a very popular way to do things. And like I said, in these manufacturers, it remains, but it's not as effective in presenting to you a full scope of the sound around you. And when you don't have that, you kind of get isolated. What ends up happening with most of those manufacturers is that you end up hearing directly what's in front of you. But if somebody is over to the side and says, "Hey, you know, I'm talking to you," you wouldn't hear them. So then you have to shift your focus to that person physically. You have to turn your head to them. Whereas with the units that have the spatial analyzer, you're going to know when somebody's talking to you because it will lock on that individual. So that is a really, really big advantage to the Oticon and the GN Resound products. Now, several of the manufacturers have merged over years. Everybody knows the name Siemens in hearing aids. They've been around since the 1890s. They sold out several years ago to an investment group, and the investment group principally wanted to try to build the brand up so they could sell it outright. That didn't work. And so they ended up, in order to increase market share, they ended up merging with Widex hearing aids. Widex has been around since the mid 1950s. They're out of Denmark. They make very good products. And both the companies run independently, even though they share a common parent company. They're running independently. The same goes true for Phonak. They bought out Unitron Corporation. Oticon has bought Philips. So all the smaller players are getting absorbed by the larger players, but they're all being allowed to run independently. So you're going to see large gaps between, say, Oticon and Philips, even though they share the same platform. Philips doesn't get all the high-end stuff that Oticon creates because they want to, make their brand the best. Kind of like General Motors when they had Oldsmobile, Pontiac, Buick, etc. Those cars all were different, even though they were under the same parent company. So you're going to see a lot of advertising and things from all the major manufacturers saying we have this, this, and this. And some things are going to be similar, and some things are going to be very, very different, depending on what the engineers think they need to present to the population that they serve. Most of the hearing aids in today's world are called receiver in the ear hearing aids. The entire industry is going away from the large, bulky, over the ear products with tubes. Now, that's not saying they're stopping making those, because they can still make those more powerful than they can the receiver in the ear products. But the vast majority of hearing impaired really fall up to severe losses and not into profound. So you don't see the profound people going into the receiver in the ear units, but the vast majority of the marketplace is for anything from mild to severe. And so the receiver in the ear can definitely provide what's needed for those. Now, these products are very small. I just have a sample here. This is an Oticon product. It's not very big. The little thing on the end here is just a dummy speaker at this point. So you have the hearing aid, and then you have a wire, and then you have the speaker. For the more severe losses, you'll have the speaker embedded into a custom molding. But you can see that these things are not very big. Here's a dime. So these are pretty small. And the nice thing about these is that you can get them now in a rechargeable system, so you're not changing batteries all the time. The charging units have been totally reliable. The batteries are extremely reliable, and they'll give you a full day's service out of a maximum 3-hour charge. Now, you cannot overcharge the products. You don't need to be concerned that they're going to run down. You can, they just have been extremely reliable. The small size makes them much more comfortable, and having the loudspeaker built into the ear gives you a much clearer sound. For those of you that have used things like the Apple earbuds, you know how clear those sound. They have a really clean sound, much better than that of an over-the-ear headphone type thing. And this is the same kind of sound quality you get out of these. All of the newer products have extremely broad bandwidths. Now, what that means is instead of cutting the sound off in moderately high-pitched areas, it goes way, way out. So you get a lot more fidelity out of these as well. And with that fidelity comes improvements in understanding in quiet and in background noise. So it makes a lot of sense to look into something like this. All of the new products have connections to your phones via Bluetooth. Very, very handy. When you get a phone call, you can either answer your phone by touching the phone. If you have an iPhone, as a secondary thing, you can just reach up behind your ear and tap the button on the hearing aid, and it will answer the phone for you. And the phone can be up to 60 feet away, and you can still hear what the people are saying, and they can hear you as well, because the telephone connection is using the microphones of the hearing aids. So you don't have to be right on your phone. Now, if you want to screen your phone calls, of course, you don't want to just go ahead and haphazardly answer the phone, because it could be one of these stupid spam callers trying to sell you a grave plot or something like that. You don't need that. But the nice thing is that if you are expecting a call, say your husband, wife, friend, whoever said, "I'll call you in 5 minutes," and the phone rings, and you know it's going to be that person, you go ahead and simply answer. And it's really, really simple. If you want to reject the call, you just hold the button for about 2.5 seconds, and it will reject the call, and you also hang it up that way. But the really nice thing is that when you get the phone call, it goes into both ears. And so you really get a nice, clean, comfortable sound. You can also stream anything that's in your phone. If you like listening to music, say when you're out taking a walk or something like that, you can simply stream directly out of the phone into the hearing aids. Now, there are some limitations on this. There are people who, for example, you can be in your car and you're going to have Bluetooth fighting itself. The Bluetooth in the telephone is going to be fighting for a spot for the Bluetooth in the car. So sometimes people will lose a signal in the car. In the more modern cars, if you have something, say, from 2018 or later, you're probably not going to have this. But if you have an older vehicle, the Bluetooth can wander, and it can go in and out, and can be very exasperating. And that's the limiting of the Bluetooth. Bluetooth technology is scheduled to change. I know they're doing beta testing right now at Apple. And basically what's going to happen is when they get the system changed, you're going to be able to have as many as 7 different Bluetooth items running at the same time that could come into the hearing aids. Let me just step to the side and say that you have other things available in your hearing aid world that can augment your hearing of television and other things. But let's just say you have a television box from one of the manufacturers, and you have your phone connected at the same time. If you get a phone call, it's going to you're going to have to disconnect the telephone. Disconnect the television so you can take the phone call and then reconnect the television. In the new technology, and hopefully that'll be here by summer, you will automatically just be able to shift and not lose the connection that you have with the other system. So that's going to make it really, really more advantageous for you not to have to fiddle with the hearing aids. Your Android phones are, as usual, running behind what the iPhone will do. Just recently, I'd say within the last probably year to year and a quarter, the Android phones can connect into the hearing aids without an interface. But prior to that, you needed to wear a little thing, and the Oticon thing is called Connect Clip, and there are just a whole bunch of different ones out there. So if you wanted to answer the phone, you had to have this other little thing that acted as an interface between the phone and the hearing aids. But now you can just simply do a direct connect. That feature I spoke earlier about touching the button to answer the phone, is not available with Android. And the main reason is Android telephones, even within one manufacturer, run different software settings. So there's no way they can keep up with all the software that they need. It would just be impossible to write that much software to make all phones react the way you want them to. So anyhow, that's one limitation of Android. Other than that, all the new ones seem to work just as well as you would get with the iPhone. The other nice thing is that you do have, in all the manufacturers, you have an app available, so you can regulate what you hear with the phone. You're able to adjust the sound quality of things that are streaming, so you can change the bass, the mid-range, and the treble to meet your needs as to what you want to hear and the sound quality that you want to have. Some of the manufacturers allow you to modify the programs that your audiologist has put into the hearing aids. And you can, with a couple of them, create favorites for certain situations that you might frequent. Say you go to the same restaurant twice a week or something like that, to save you the hassle of having to adjust the hearing aid each time. You could simply touch favorite and it would remember for you. The phone would remember it and put that data in. Now, the one reason that you have those abilities with certain manufacturers is because you need them with those manufacturers. The later model products like the Oticon and the GN, you don't have to do that, because we're able to make it so the one program will pretty much work for the vast majority of all listening situations. Well, we might make a secondary program for listening to concert music or something, but by and large, you don't have to fiddle with those hearing aids. I would say that's true for probably 85 to 90% of the people that I fit with them. The older hearing aids, the Phonak, the Widex, the Signia Siemens, you have to have an additional program for a different listening situation. For example, some of you probably have those, and you go into a restaurant, you push restaurant program because you have to, because if you don't, there's too much noise. So your audiologist has had to create a specific program for a specific listening situation. That's, to me, I don't like to have to do that. I don't want people to have to rely on fiddling with their products. I want you to be able to hear the way my normal ears hear. So when you walk into a situation, somebody whispering will sound like they're whispering, somebody screaming will sound like they're screaming, and everything in between will sound like it should. That's an important thing, that if you're not getting that type of help, you should talk to your audiologist about that and try to get the hearing aids adjusted to allow you to keep as much hands off as possible. Your job as a listener does not need to be confounded by having to fiddle with your product every 5 seconds to make it sound better. It just doesn't. You don't need that. It takes away from your ability to, because I know many of you rely on lip reading, and it takes away from your ability to concentrate on that. If you're having to look at your phone and go, oh, I need that, I need this, I need that. You shouldn't have to do that. And if you're using product that's pretty old, and pretty old in today's world is 3 years, you're way behind the times as to what the products can do for you. So money is always an object with hearing aids. I know they're ridiculously expensive. When I got into this industry, a pair of hearing aids ran about $400. Okay. And you were getting about $400 worth in by today's standards. Hearing aids in today's world, you're probably looking, entry-level products will run you anywhere from, say, around $3,600 for a pair. That's not cheap, and I understand that, but you're getting one hell of a good product there. Your mid-level products, which are a pretty big jump over entry level, are going to run you pretty close to $5,000. And your top of the lines are going to be anywhere from $7,200 to $7,400 for a pair. Very expensive stuff, no question about it. The advantage is that on the newer products, we can do product upgrade just like you do for your laptop or your desktop computers. You get software and firmware upgrades, sometimes as many as 4 a year. You get to come into the office and we check your hearing aids, make sure everything's working fine, and then we put in the upgrade, and that will make for better connections with your phone. It'll make for improvements in your ability to hear in crowds, changes in fidelity. These manufacturers are always experimenting and trying to make the products work better for you. And it used to be they had to introduce new product almost annually to make stuff work better. But with the chip technology that's out there now, you can just keep upgrading the chip over and over and over again in the hearing aid office, and then we can make it so everything will work a lot better for you. The newer products also have much better anti-whistling controls. Many of the older hearing aids had terrible whistling controls. They would squeak, whistle anytime you did anything. The new ones, you can even just go like this and cover the hearing aid, and you'll hear a slight chirp, and then it should pretty much stop. And now, if you have a vent in your mold, that's not going to work as well. But if you move your hand around, it can't stop that. But it will, if you hold in place, generally speaking, it will shut it off, because the hearing aid will sense that there is a feedback there, and it will make a sound that's what's called an anti-log of that, and will just shut it off. So it's a very, very cool thing. So walking up to somebody and giving them a hug, you're not going to have to worry much about the squeaking anymore. That's always been kind of a problem. All of the manufacturers, as I said earlier, have little things to hook into your television set. These are Bluetooth devices, and you can access that either through your phone or by touching the button on the hearing aid. So when you turn your television on, you do that, and then you get a direct connection, very high fidelity, out of the TV box. So people in the room can sit there and enjoy television at a normal level, and you'll get a high quality, clean signal through your hearing aids. In fact, if you're sitting there, say your husband, wife, significant other doesn't want to hear the TV at all, you can turn the TV on and push mute, and you'll still hear the TV just fine. And you'll hear what's going on in the room as well. If you prefer, you can adjust that as well. And your significant other will not have to listen to, what they don't want to listen to. You're going to see a lot of changes in hearing aids. As I said, the Bluetooth stuff is coming. Right now, the only manufacturer's hearing aids that allow for that big Bluetooth upgrade is Oticon, and that goes back to their More series, and they just came out with a new one called the Real. You're going to have that ability. It'll just be a firmware upgrade, so you won't have to be concerned. But every other manufacturer hasn't reached that point yet, and I'm not quite sure what they're going to do with that. That's a big question mark at this point. They all have little remote microphones that are available. This is something that you can stick on an individual, say somebody that you're going to a restaurant with. You can just stick it on that person and turn that on, and you'll hear that person directly. And you have the option then of turning off the room noise completely if you desire, and you'll just hear what's coming out of that person. It's a very, very nice feature. But if you're only hearing that person and the waiter walks up to you, you're going to have to make a change, and so you can pick up the environmental sound again. But if this works tremendously. I've got a guy that he just swears by this thing. He has a 12-foot Ford van that he's outfitted. He drives his grandkids around, and they sit in the back and play video games while they're going off on a trek to the zoo or something. And so he sticks this on one of them, and he can carry on a conversation with them. This guy's got a really severe hearing loss. He can carry on a conversation with no problem. It just works terrifically. People with whose spouse has difficulty hearing, if you're driving, you're wearing the hearing aids, and the spouse is always telling you how to drive, turn right here, turn left here, you're going too fast, whatever it is, that you can have the person wear that so you can continue to get nagged by the person. It works out great. But all in all, it's a very, very handy thing. Some people also use that instead of purchasing the television box. They sit it in front of their television set, and it works pretty well too. The TV box gives a little cleaner sound and won't pick up any extraneous noise in the room. That's one advantage of that. But other than that, it's a very, very handy tool. As hearing aids evolve, you're going to see them continue to get smaller. You're going to see rechargeable batteries that last longer. Most of them in today's world will function for minimum 24 hours. Some go as long as 30 hours. The rechargeable feature was a real problem in the past because the batteries just couldn't handle a lot of load. So if you were doing a lot of streaming on your phone, you'd have to take your hearing aids out and charge them up in the middle of the day or toward the end of the workday, because it just wouldn't do it. But today's world, you can stream for 6 or 7 hours easily throughout the day, and the batteries will hold up to the end of the day. But that will change and that will improve. Now, a lot of you, I'm sure, have heard of this thing that the over-the-counter hearing aids. You're looking at some very interesting stuff with that. They talk about, oh, they're $300 for 2 of them. These are products that are basically, I would label them as garbage. I've purchased them, I've tested them, and I've seen horrible results with them. The first one I tested was several years ago. I don't want to badmouth the company, but the product that they were selling looked extremely familiar to me. And when I got it, I realized that it was a 1977 Danavox 743 UN. So it was 45-year-old technology, and they were selling it for $200, just like we did in 1977, same price. 3-transistor amplifier. I did some testing with it and recorded sound through the hearing aid. When in a quiet situation, it was okay. It sounded like a hearing aid from 45 years ago. But when I turned on some background noise, couldn't hear a thing. All you could hear was noise. It was just like the noise went up and you didn't even know somebody was talking. And since that was really old technology, I wrote it off as being really, really old technology, and that's fine. But I got some of the newer technology. I bought the Sony product. Now, those ran $1,000. Okay. And they were small, little tiny in the canal hearing aids about the size of the tip of my finger. And I said, well, these look really familiar. And it turns out that they have coupled with Signia to buy their 1AX hearing aid. It's the same hearing aid. If I were selling it, I would sell it for the same price. Why wouldn't I sell it? Well, unlike the one that I would get from Signia directly, where I could adjust it with my computer, the Sony product has to be adjusted through your phone. So I followed all of the directions, and I'm pretty computer savvy, and tried to get the dang things to hook up to the phone. They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't. Yeah, I could do nothing. I could do no programming. So I called them, and I was on the phone for almost 2 hours, and they said, well, we're having some issues. So I sent them back, and I waited a month, and I ordered them again. Same problem. So if I, as an audiologist who've been around since the inception of programming, can't program them, it scares the heck out of me what they're going to expect somebody who has no experience programming to do, even if you can get them to connect. Now, I've spoken to some other people in the industry, other professionals like myself, and they've had the same kind of problems. So where this is going, I don't know. You can't just walk into a CVS or Best Buy or anything like that and purchase something like this. You've got to buy it online. So, and then they're supposed to have a helpline. But again, the helpline that I got from a very reputable company, Sony is a very reputable company because I love their products. I don't love their hearing aids. It just didn't do the job. None of those hearing aids have Bluetooth capability. I did look at the Bose as well, and I was just pathetic. It just did nothing. Hearing and noise did not work at all. So, and these things aren't cheap. You're looking at $1,000 minimum. There was another one, I can't remember. I think it was, I saw it on TV the other night. They are advertising it for $2,000. That's a lot of money for an over-the-counter hearing aid. And I'm sure, based on what it is, that it's just not going to do the trick. I understand the idea of over-the-counter hearing aids, but it's kind of like having an over-the-counter physician. You know, if you've ever got a real problem, you better go to the doctor and let him take care of you, instead of relying on saying, oh, I think this pill might work, and do it. It's just not going to happen. Okay. This may change over time, but to date, I've not been really excited about any of this. There's some other companies out there who are not over-the-counter companies. You may have heard of a company called Whisper. This is they've been around for a few years. It's supposed to be a totally artificial intelligence product. I got on their list. I became a distributor of it. I couldn't get one of them to stick. Not one person liked the product. It has a facts. The artificial intelligence is a thing you have to carry around with you, either in your purse or your pocket. It weighs about a pound. It's about the size of a navel orange. And supposedly it learns from the environment and reprograms the product as you go along. The people that I tried it on said it wasn't helping at all. Also, it's big, it's clumsy. The battery life is dreadful. It's like 2.5 days on a 675 battery, which is just horrible battery life. So the cost of operating the product is not very good. And I finally got to the point where I had 6 of these as demos that the factory had given to me, and I just sent them back and said, forget it. Nobody liked it, and it just wasn't doing the trick. And I haven't heard a word from them. So I don't know if they're even still going to be in business, but it is what it is. I don't know if any of you are using Starkey products. Starkey at one time was the premier, all in the ear manufacturer. I don't know what's happened to that company as far as reliability, but my experience with them has been very poor. People, I won't sell them at this point. That's how bad they've gotten for me. But up to I would say August of last year, anyone that I had fitted had 100% failure rate in the first 9 months. So the products just die and quit working, and then you got to send them in, and they're in the shop for 2 weeks. I don't like that. I don't want to sell a product like that. And everybody that I know that is using that product is having the same kind of issue. So if you're in the market for something, I would step away from them until they get their irons lined up properly, because they're just not doing what they need to do. All of you that wear hearing aids, maintenance, and especially self-maintenance, is incredibly important. You need to keep your hearing aids clean. You need to clean them every day. You need to wipe them off. You need to, if you got a little brush, you want to brush across the opening on the molding. If you have little filters, you want to brush those filters and keep them clean, because if you don't, you're going to end up sacrificing sound quality and maybe not even being able to hear what's going on at all if the filters plug up. People often ask me, how often should I change the filters? That's a really difficult question to answer, because some people make no earwax and have no detritus in their ears. And so if they clean them, the filters can last for a year. Other people, I have people that change them every week because they make so much wax. So the best thing you can do is wipe the hearing aid off with a Kleenex. You don't need to use any liquids, just wipe the hearing aid off, wipe the molding off, inspect the tip. If it looks like it's dirty, change the filter. If it's a unit that doesn't have a filter, say you're still using an over-the-ear with tubes, check that tube and make sure that it's clear. You can look, and usually at the bend where the tubing goes into the molding, you can see a buildup of moisture. Sometimes that'll happen, especially as we get into the hotter summer months. You go into a cool room from outdoors, and perspiration is going to build up and make a water bubble across the tube, and it's going to shut the hearing aid off. If that happens to you, you can just take it out and shake it and put it back in. It'll probably come back on. But if you get a whole lot of it in there, you may have to separate the tubing from the hearing aid and blow through it. Better to use a little hand blower or compressed air as compared to blowing with your mouth, because your mouth has moisture in it and can add moisture to the moisture that you've blown out, but there's still going to be some in there from your mouth. So and the other very important thing for people that are using tubed type hearing aids, please get them changed on a regular basis. As those tubes age, they stiffen up, they shrink, and with that, the sound quality goes down. And it's a gradual thing, so you're going to have a problem and not even realize it until the tube pulls out, or it breaks, or it could even break the hook on the hearing aid. So you want to make sure that you get those serviced, and you should do that at least twice a year. It's smart. Now, the hearing aids themselves in today's world, everything since around 2017 has what's called nano coating. Nano coating is like Scotchgard. You've ever used that like on a tent or something, it repels water. You have the same thing on your hearing aid. The only problem with the Scotchgard stuff, the nano coating, is able to be worn off, especially if you like to clean your hearing aid with alcohol. Alcohol just break it down, and in a matter of 2 or 3 applications of alcohol, it'll wipe it out, so you won't have any water resistant anymore. So just if you're going to clean the hearing aids, use a dry terry cloth towel or one of those eyeglass cloths to clean it. That nano coating really should last for many, many years if you don't get it off there chemically.
Jeff?
Yeah.
I would like to thank you, but I'd also like to open up the floor for a few questions. Our meeting will be ending at 11 o'clock. Okay. So if anyone has a question, please raise your hand. I'm going to put it on the gallery view so we can see, and just raise your hand. Keep your questions brief so that everyone can get a chance to ask Jeff, our expert, a question if they would like. So unless you have any final comments, can I open the floor for questions, Jeff?
Yeah, let me give one quick comment.
Okay.
Anybody who's having trouble, come into my office. I'm happy to diagnose your problems at no charge. Just give us a call and you come on in. No problem.
Thank you. Okay, please raise your hand. Hi, Allison, go ahead.
Hi there. Hi, Wendy. Hi, Jeff. Oh my
Hi,
God.
Allison.
Pleasure to have you here, Jeff. I
Thank
mean,
you.
for anybody who doesn't know Jeff, he is by far the best. I have gotten several hearings from him. So Jeff, I want to thank you for your update. It's just fantastic. I did have a couple of questions, and but I've forgotten what they are. I just wanted to say something before the battery on my computer dies, and wanted to welcome the new people who are coming in. I did have a question, actually. The Android, you said in sometime this summer we should be able to have the new product will be able to Bluetooth with 7 different devices from the iPhone. Is that right?
It'll be the iPhone. To my knowledge, Android is working on it, but they're way behind. That's what I've heard. Okay. Through my connections.
Okay, that's fantastic, because I know right now you have to disconnect with each item, and it's really inconvenient. So, okay,
exactly.
Android is following up. I have a couple of clients who have Android, although I tried to get them to get the iPhone, and they're struggling. And I agree with you about the Starkey. I had 2 clients who returned the Starkeys and got the overtime. But
Yeah,
anyway, thank
they're
you.
dreadful. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Sue. Please
Okay, Sue.
unmute.
Okay, Jeff, I have a severe to profound hearing loss, so I'm very limited on what hearing aids. I'm what you call a power junkie. I grew up with analog hearing aids. I now have a Resound, GN Resound. I can't remember. I'm at the point where I'm going to probably need new hearing aids. What hearing aid brands do you recommend for those that have profound hearing loss?
Okay, I would definitely look at the Resound Enzo Q998. That's their latest model. It's been fabulous for severe to profound. Very, very good product. Reliability has been good. You could also look at the Oticon Exceed. That's another one. The Exceed UP, mean ultra power.
Okay.
Do you have any hearing in the high frequencies, or is that gone?
In my good ear, I have some. I have a combination hearing loss in my
Okay.
good ear, so I can use the
Okay.
phone. The other one I don't. So the high frequency is pretty much bottomed out in
Okay.
my but I do have just a little.
Uh-huh. Okay. Signia has a new product, a newer product. Their motion, it's called the C&G, which means charge and go. SPX. That's a high power product. I haven't fit it, so I don't use many of their products, but I know it's out there, and I've heard some good things about it. It is a
Okay.
rechargeable product, so that's a handy thing to have. Other than that, I probably would not go to Phonak in the NAIDA line. They've had some problems with their microphones for the last 4 or 5 years, just dying, and they have no high end at all. And even though you don't have a lot of measurable hearing up there, sometimes you can get some additional benefit even when you put sound up there that you don't think you're hearing. It can help you out. So probably Resound would be the first, and if that doesn't do the job, look at the Oticon.
Well, I know that with having a severe profound hearing loss, I'm limited because I do have to have the ear mode, the tube. But I know I'm going to be spending a lot of money, you know. So I want to make sure I go with the best hearing.
Yeah,
aids.
that's
I would
the
like to
Resound
try
has
out
been
some
fabulous.
others. Yeah.
Resound's
Well,
been
thank you.
fabulous.
Yeah.
You bet. No problem.
Anybody else? I don't see any hands up. Yes, Siri, unmute, please. Unmute. Please unmute. Siri, please unmute yourself. Siri, please unmute. Susanna, can you unmute her?
Okay,
Can
There you go.
unmute her? Okay.
Yes.
okay. Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I am very computer illiterate.
That's okay.
I am listening. I am fully hearing, but my husband has hearing loss. I'm trying to convince him
Mhm.
to get a hearing aid. He's very afraid of trying it. He doesn't like it. He has tried them. He's
Mhm.
had very bad luck with the molds. He says they hurt his ears. And we're trying to convince him that there is an alternative, but he's just very much just not willing to try.
Okay.
What can I do to get him to get a hearing aid?
That's-
We have
Well-
the means to buy one.
Yeah. Well, first of all, tell him that California law mandates a 45-day trial at no
Ah,
charge. Okay.
Okay, we're
So
not
he
California.
if he
We're-
comes to me, he puts out no money up front. Okay.
we're-
We'll test him and we can hook him up, send him out the door with product, and he does not need to pay a nickel if he's not happy.
Okay, we're not
Also-
California.
Oh,
We're
you're not? Okay.
Arizona.
All right. Why don't you, I'll give you my email, and if you contact me, I'll try to find somebody in a zip code near you that can do what he needs to have done.
Uh-huh.
And my email is very easy. It's my name, Jeff Grama @gmail.com. JEFFGRAMA @gmail.com.
Okay,
So you send me your information, and I will go ahead and search for somebody in your area. Now, if I don't know what Arizona has as far, they probably have a 30-day trial. But
okay,
most people don't do business like I do. They want a deposit, but it is fully refundable, at least in California.
okay. Well, my brother is Tim Browning and he works for LAA.
Yes.
And he's been working on him. I've been
It's-
working on him. He's very stubborn, but it's difficult living with someone, as you probably know,
Yeah.
who you have to repeat everything for, especially and be kind about it. It's just like, oh, I want to pull my hair out because there is a solution, but he's not willing to take, not willing to
Absolutely.
try it.
Well, the other thing you can do, if you can get him to get his hearing tested, or if you have an older hearing test, say within the last couple of years, I can make a specific recommendation for him, and I can even create a program and send it to you so you could have your audiologist put that data in.
I'm trying to think when the last time was. He did have it checked, but it's been a little bit longer than 3 years, probably 4 years. So,
Right.
but I appreciate everything that you've said. I'm excited about as he's very technology minded, and so I think he would relish the idea of the challenge of a
Right.
hearing aid that would have
Right.
so many options for him. So
Have him look up the Oticon Reel. It's OTICON Reel, like in real time.
okay, Oticon, say that again. I had noise outside. My gardener's here.
Oticon Reel, REAL.
Okay, Oticon
And
Reel.
that'll help him. That's the most technologically advanced creature out there right now.
Okay. Well, I really
Okay.
appreciate all that you have.
Thank you so much, Sherry.
Oh,
We're gonna
no.
go to Mitzi now, has a question.
Okay.
Mitzi. Mhm.
It's not so much a question as a statement that you can have the most hearing aids in the world, but if you don't have them adjusted correctly, they are painful, annoying. You can't wait to get home and rip them out because they're a strain, they're tiring. I think all of us who wear hearing aids have gone through that and have gone through a number of audiologists. And there's a reason so many of us go to Jeff. Jeff is a master at adjusting your hearing aids for you. And one of the big things he does, and it made all the difference to me and my daughter, who wouldn't wear her hearing aids and wears them all the time. We both fall asleep with them because they're comfortable now, is he puts a lid on the sound. Most audiologists, whatever range you have of hearing loss in, they just leave the volume all the way up. And then it's complicated, but the cilia on either side of the dead cilia are overloaded. And that's why they're so uncomfortable and painful. Jeff simply puts a lid on a lot of the volume and a lot of other things he does, but he's a master at it. And this is one of the biggest problems, is there aren't enough good audiologists like Jeff,
Thank you.
but
Makes
it's extremely important.
Well, whoever you see for your hearing problems, always
Mhm.
tell them to do a tolerance test. And they should do it either using speech and or using tones, and go up to what is uncomfortably loud for you. And then they need to just set it just a little below that. And you'll have a perfect range of what your ear can tolerate, and you'll do great. Nobody does that. I don't know why. I've never understood it.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. The next question is Felicia. Unmute.
Hello, Jeff. Hello. Happy to meet everyone. I'm new to the group, so here's my question. I have a warranty on
Mhm.
my hearing aids. Does the warranty move with you if you go to a different clinic?
Yes, the warranty
Like
is
if I
world.
wanted to,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, if I wanted to come see you, could I bring my warranty to allow me to see you to tweak or do whatever
yes,
with my hearing
Yeah.
aids?
absolutely. Yeah, the warranty is worldwide. Now, some people charge for you to come in the door, but I don't do that, especially to HLAA members. So if you come in and you're having a problem, we'll fix you. You're the one
Oh,
using
awesome.
you have a phone act, correct? I think I got some information about that.
I have a phonic, yes.
Okay.
Audio, phonic audio. I've been having a lot of issues with those hearing aids. I mean, I think they're great, but I've been kind of disappointed, and they're very expensive. And so I'm thinking I have the top of the line. However, they've already been in for 2 repairs in 1 month. So
Wow.
I was really disappointed in that. And so one more question. I recently took an audiograph, and the doctor suggested that I get modes because I have the receiver in the ear.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I don't want to get modes. But he thinks, even though my audiogram doesn't show much change in my hearing loss, thank you, but he thinks I may hear better with the modes instead of the receiver in the ear.
Well, you have a receiver in the ear, but he wants to put the mold on
Yes.
the receiver in the ear, and that'll give you a lot more mid-range and high range, so your understanding will be better. Okay, generally, I'm assuming you have like a moderate hearing loss. So
I have moderate to severe hearing
you
loss.
definitely need molds. If you're using the little rubber tips, no, that's not the way to go. The rubber tips will, they don't give you the sharpness that a mold will give you. You don't get the clarity. It acts as a damper a little bit. Plus, you end up hearing sometimes a lot of noise because most of those are not vented properly. The mold will have a proper hole drilled through it for venting to allow you to hear better. So yeah, you definitely come on in, and I'm happy to help you out. No problem.
Okay, thank you
Okay.
for that very valuable
Thank you.
information. I might also add that with the mold, your hearing aids stay in your ear better, and you're less likely to lose them or pull them out with, just a general movement.
And they're more comfortable.
Yeah.
They're a lot more comfortable.
Our next question is with Stephanie. Go ahead, Stephanie, unmute.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, everybody. I'm on my phone, so this is one of the things that's great. I have an iPhone, and I use it to listen in my hearing aids while I'm on my computer, because I don't have the Connect clip yet to get it with my computer, but I'm getting one in a few days. So anyway, I just wanted to tell people that, because you can listen. I'm listening in my hearing aids, and it's great because everything is right in my hearing aids, so I can hear directly. And then because I have hearing loss, I'm also using my phone with Zoom than my caption because I can't see my caption from the computer's too far away. So just a little bit more information if people have vision loss and hearing loss. So there's so many things with technology that's great. But Jeff, I had a question about the otaconic seed. Is that an aid that I would want to look into, or is it different than the Moore, and how are they comparable?
Well, that's more designed for corner hearing. It's tubed. You're going back to molds and tubes with that product. So no, if you're doing okay with what you have, I would stay with that. I haven't seen you in a long time, so you should come in. I've got an update to put in your hearing aids, by the way.
I still have my open.
Oh, oh yeah, you do. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm deciding like now what I'm gonna do and what I should look into. I still have them, and I was talking to Wendy, and she was telling me about the Resound, and the More I know is really good from what we were talking about before. So I just had to wait until I was ready to transition over. So I just kind of wanted to get more information about. I didn't think the Exceed was powerful enough for me.
Oh, it is, but it's gonna go back to old molds and tubes, and you go through tubes like water goes through a sieve. you remember how many times we had to change your tubes because your body chemistry. So if you can avoid that, stay with the receiver in the ear like you have.
Okay, I gotcha. Well,
I want to say a
thank
couple of
you.
things very quickly as we close our meeting out. For those people who are having difficulty seeing our captions, please know that captions do have the capacity to change in appearance. You can go to your settings and you can increase the size of your captioning within the Zoom program so that you don't have to have two separate things going. Just so you know. So it will ask you, do you want your captions this size or that size? And you can have that a much bigger thing on the screen. The downside is it will cover some of, the people on there, possibly the presenter, but you can see your captions in larger format on your Zoom presentation. Okay. I think that does it for us today. I want to thank everyone for showing up and supporting our meeting. And we want to thank Jeff for all this invaluable information and sharing your Saturday with us. And everyone have a wonderful weekend and go Warriors. Okay.